Two separate announcements from two separate Middle Eastern giants actually suggests that maybe, just maybe, we could be seeing some more countries wanting to copy Bukele's Bitcoin plan. So I saw this news headline come out today about Turkey. Turkey has formally applied to join the BRICS. And I know what some people would be saying. Okay, Luke, who cares? That's not massive news, but a lot of people forget what Turkey did literally 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even see this happen. But apparently, a Turkish firm just invested $1.6 billion into El Salvador's Bitcoin city, and I am shocked that that got absolutely no press. So Turkey's making a move into Bitcoin, but we're also going to be discussing Qatar's new QFC digital framework. Before we discuss Qatar, let's watch this video breaking down what is actually going on with Turkey investing $1 billion into Bitcoin city. Oh, we got ads. We're going to let the ads play, and we're going to play this video for you guys because I think it breaks down the video better than I could.
$1.6 billion. And moving to Latin America, El Salvador.
Let me turn this audio down. I don't want you guys to get a headache listening to things on 2x speed. All right, let's listen to this.
And moving to Latin America, El Salvador has secured its biggest private investment in the country's history, with Turkey's Yieldport Holding announcing an investment of $1.6 billion. The Turkish investment will be used to expand 2 seaports in El Salvador. Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele said the investments were part of his broader economic revitalization plan. Now, it must be noted that the Turkish company would be upgrading the ports in Acayolta and the upcoming Bitcoin city in La Union. In addition to refurbing the 2 ports, Turkey will also jointly operate both the ports with local authorities for the next 50 years. The Acayolta port is the largest and the most important harbor in all of El Salvador. In fact, it's responsible for most of the country's exports, including coffee, sugar, and balsamic salt. The first phase of investments would be to expand the port shipping lanes to reduce wait times for large vessels. The second and third phases would expand the port's parking facilities for ships. But now it's important to note the Bitcoin City port has not been operational since it was constructed back in 2008. However, Bukele hopes that the Turkish investments will make the port usable. Meanwhile, Ankara says it sees immense opportunities and growth potential in El Salvador's Bitcoin city. El Salvador, under Bukele, made Bitcoin a legal tender in 2021 when it announced that the president had grand plans to build an entire city based on the world's largest cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin city will have special tax advantages, crypto-friendly regulations, and incentives for doing business in Bitcoin. Bukele says this would bring in billions of dollars in investment and thousands of jobs to El Salvador.
Okay, so this is absolutely bigger than most people are, giving it credit for. I didn't see anyone cover this news 2 weeks ago. Now, again, think about the timing here. 2 weeks ago, Turkey invests $1.6 billion into El Salvador's Bitcoin city. 2 weeks later, they formally applied to become a part of BRICS. Let's start breaking down the BRICS elements of this story first before we discuss this investment into Bitcoin City. So we can see here, we have this Bloomberg article that dropped today. So Turkey has formally applied to become a part of the BRICS, and they're getting away from the West. So this BRICS bloc is scheduled to discuss expansion at a summit in Russia in October. So next month. Okay, let's break down what's actually happened. Okay, so we can see they formally applied because they want to forge new ties beyond its traditional Western allies. Okay, so Turkey is important because they are obviously straddling Europe and Asia, as Bloomberg would say, and they are now frustrated over a lack of progress in its decades-old bid to join the European Union. Okay, this bid to the BRICS is also partly a result of rifts with fellow NATO members after Turkey maintained close links with Russia following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Okay, so that's the news. We have more and more countries wanting to get into BRICS. Okay, and this is interesting and important right now because just recently, there was some sort of a survey happening, but we can see here 159 different countries are now signing on to this new BRICS settlement system. Lots of people are speculating Are the BRICS going to create their own currency? Or what are the BRICS going to do? Well, we can see here that the global financial landscape is poised for a seismic shift as news emerges that 159 out of 193 countries have signed up to use the new BRICS settlement system. Okay. Again, we haven't really received a whole lot of clarification of just, what this new settlement system is going to be, what's actually going to happen. All we do know is lots of these very interesting signposts continue to develop, and they continue, raising eyebrows, so to say, because something else that happened literally yesterday was Russia beginning to experiment with Bitcoin and crypto for international trade. That was literally starting yesterday. Okay, so we did a video on this earlier in the week, but this is just yet another signpost showing that a lot of these countries are really starting to move away from, this Western world. They're starting to team up. They're starting to form alliances. This is a video that Bukele put on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, he's kind of talking about phase 3 of the government's economic plan. And he was actually talking about this recent deal with Turkey. So it was the biggest private investment in El Salvador's history. 1.615 millones is obviously that $1.6 billion dollar number. And, so this was posted on Twitter, but I didn't see a lot of other people connecting the dots with, Turkey also now actually wanting to join BRICS. So Turkey is obviously a geopolitical powerhouse. They've got, 80 plus million people. They've got a very large population. Okay. Again, whoever has a big population, they need to be watched because they are geopolitically important. But someone else who is also geopolitically important is Qatar. Now, before we talk about Qatar, I want to talk a little bit more about Turkey. Okay. Because Turkey is a really interesting use case. Okay, they're suffering from enormous inflation in the country. They've got one of the worst performing fiat currencies in the world. This little chart here is actually showing you guys the inflation rate of Turkey. And again, this is more kind of like a little bit of, let's say, data collection. And we're trying to make the case for why Turkey might be interested in Bitcoin. Okay, so we can see here their inflation rate peaked out at an official rate of 85% in 2022. That's incredible. That means your money is losing half of its value every single year. That means the price of a car goes from $10,000 to $20,000 in a year. Your purchasing power is losing half of its value. Now, it's had a little correction, but it's still at 40% per year, which is incredible to think about. Okay, so the Turkish people for a long time have, they've been suffering with their currency. And I found this interesting, that Bukele was meeting with the president of Turkey literally 3 months after making Bitcoin legal tender. This original meeting happened in January 2022. So that's 3 to 4 months after September, when Bitcoin was officially made legal tender in El Salvador. Do you really think that these two guys were not talking about Bitcoin? I don't know. Let's not speculate though. Let's actually have a look at what's happening in Turkey right now. So there's a really interesting recent survey done in late 2023. Okay, so this is actually nearly a year old now. But we can see here, as of late 2023, more than half of Turkish adults supposedly invested in crypto. Yes, we know that's crypto, not Bitcoin. But something that this survey found was that 52% of Turkish adults invest in crypto. And of those people, 70% of them invested in just Bitcoin. Okay, so there's a lot of Bitcoiners in this, crypto survey. Okay, so we can see some really interesting things by this chart right here. They were pretty comprehensive. They were looking at people between the ages of 18 and 60. So they took a look at the whole spectrum of, adults in the country. They found that a lot of these people were involved in Bitcoin and / crypto for a long amount of time. So as we can see, overall, 26% of the people surveyed had actually held it for more than 3 years, meaning they got in, before 2020. So again, I think Turkey has been pretty big and pretty involved in this space in a very, very, very long time. They have been invested for a long time, okay? And they are one of these strategically important countries. Again, if they have, I mean, think about that for a minute. If they really have 80 million people, half of them are in on Bitcoin, that's massive. This is the stat that I mentioned a second ago. Bitcoin dominates at 71% of the overall Bitcoin investors. 71% were just interested in Bitcoin. That's really interesting. A lot of people say, "Oh, but my US dollar stable coins are everything." It's all this adoption outside of America. It's only for US dollar stable coins. Not necessarily the case. Yes, stable coins are very popular, but people clearly want, access to Bitcoin. People clearly understand that Bitcoin, is the only, let's say cryptocurrency that's completely immutable, completely decentralized, and uncensorable, okay? To the Ethereum fans who might say, but Luke, Ethereum's the second most decentralized cryptocurrency. What do you mean Bitcoin's the only immutable, uncensorable one? Well, let's not forget that people in Iran and Venezuela were sanctioned and they were actually cut off when they were using MetaMask in 2022. Okay, let's not forget that. Okay, Ethereum is not decentralized and it can be controlled by the man himself, Vitalik. Okay, but again, let's get back on track. Turkey, interesting country, tons of adoption. Again, their president has met with Bukele 3 months after they made Bitcoin legal tender, and now they're joining BRICS. Okay, very interesting timing. But let's now turn our attention to Qatar, the country with one of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, as you can see by this chart here. This chart shows they've got a $450 billion sovereign wealth fund as of 2023 data. They're a big country. They're strategically important. We obviously talked about this in a video earlier in the year. We showed you guys that El Salvador has welcomed the Emir of Qatar. This was all going down in 2023, December 2023. We covered all of this. We also showed you guys why the Emir's private jet was spotted in Madeira, tiny little place in Portugal, on the day that Michael Saylor was talking at the Madeira Bitcoin Atlantis conference. We already done a whole video on that, so we're not going to be breaking down the whole rabbit hole regarding Qatar. But let's just say I was interested by this headline today. Because this obviously came out on the exact same day that we have this news of Turkey wanting to join BRICS. So it really does look as if the Middle East is slowly but surely making an escape from the petrodollar system. They want out. They've had enough. And we can see here that Qatar has created a new framework. They have a pretty interesting name for this framework. It is the QFC Digital Asset Framework. Okay. Now, again, let's remind you guys that Qatar does have that. What was it? It's a $500 billion sovereign wealth fund. I'm sure most people would remember the rumors from earlier in the year when there were rumors floating around that Qatar and Saudi Arabia were both interested in buying $500 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is a fair chunk of Bitcoin, mind you. Again, we haven't seen anything confirmed from those rumors yet, but what we are seeing is continued, let's say, positive footsteps in that direction in public, okay? Again, I would be shocked if these countries aren't making a bigger Bitcoin play in private. So we can see here, Qatar's central bank governor believes that this framework, the new framework that was signed today, will bring opportunities to the country's financial sector. So again, are central banks in Australia putting forward frameworks like this? Are the central banks of England or America making moves and saying really positive things about Bitcoin? Not really. Not really, guys. The Middle East is. The Middle East is clearly very, very interested. So the QFC stands for the Qatar Financial Center, a business center based in Doha. And Qatar has now released this comprehensive framework. So again, there's a lot of jargon here. There's a lot of buzzwords in this. There's a lot of, financial, innovation. There's a lot of, Web3, digital currency, tokenization. This announcement is very vague, but if you had to put it in the positive or the negative side of the news, it is clearly a positive step in the right direction. Okay, and this is yet again just another step from Qatar. We can see here that in November 2023, so nearly a year ago now, Qatar launched its third financial sector strategy to create a capital market to help the country unlock its economic potential. The plan includes embracing emerging technologies to accelerate digital transformation. So again, I think you guys know what I mean when I say there's a few buzzwords involved in this new digital asset framework in Qatar. But I think it is clearly a step in the right direction. And when we combine it with what I'm going to show you guys in a second, you're going to see that maybe there's a little bit more hiding beneath the surface in Qatar. Before we talk more about Qatar, I obviously want to tell you guys about our flagship show sponsor. That is Rhino Bitcoin. Rhino Bitcoin is the up-and-coming, all-in-one Bitcoin super app. You can buy Bitcoin on Rhino. You can sell Bitcoin on Rhino. You can do really cool things like buy Visa cards on Rhino that you can top up with Bitcoin. Obviously makes traveling an absolute breeze. You can even play around with a multi-signature setup on Rhino. Okay, you can connect that setup straight to Casa. That's obviously really cool, and a lot of people here like to take their sovereignty to the next level. So as you can see, they've got a really slick UX. Highly recommend you guys check out what Rhino is doing. Okay, you can find everything you need to know about Rhino linked down below in the description of today's video. Okay, I believe you go to rhinobitcoin.com, you can download the app and try to find if it's in your local area. So as we can see, that is linked in the live chat for you guys to check out. So let's talk a little bit more about who KBS is mentioned in the live chat. Bukele and Qatar and Turkey in the Middle East. Okay, I think the people in the Middle East, well, in Turkey in particular, are clearly ready for Bitcoin adoption. The survey here that we looked at says it all. They're clearly very interested. They have some of the highest levels of adoption in the world. Again, let's put the caveat in there. A survey is a survey. This doesn't tell us that we have 40 million people in Turkey using Bitcoin. Okay, this is a survey from memory. This was based on about 10 to 20,000 people. Okay, I cannot find the exact number of people, but I remember when I first read this survey from last year, it's about 10 to 20,000. So it's a pretty good survey. But again, this is just based upon 10 to 20,000 people. This isn't 40 million people have adopted Bitcoin in Turkey. Okay, probably the adoption levels are probably not that high throughout the rest of the country, but they're clearly interested in Bitcoin. Their president clearly knows Bukele very well. And he clearly understands that Turkey has a problem that they need to fix. They really, really, really do need to fix the inflation problem. Turkey's a massive G20 country. They're geopolitically very important. They're very connected in the Middle East. It's, I think that we need to be watching what they're doing, and for them to apply for the BRICS, I think it's absolutely massive. I think it's something that a lot of people are sleeping on. Okay, so guys, if anyone's from Rumble, actually, I'd love to know how many of you guys are on Rumble watching this live stream about Turkey. I have heard that more people over in the Middle East do use Rumble than YouTube, so that is certainly interesting. But with all that said, guys, I think I might leave you guys here. We've been going for 18 minutes. We've kept the news short, sharp, and sweet. If you do like these fast little bites of news, you're going to love our newsletter, which is even shorter than our live streams. We put that out once a week, and that summarizes all of the important and interesting topics that we think we see during the week. So again, it's a free newsletter. Feel free to subscribe to that puppy down below. And with all that said, guys, I'm going to leave you guys right here. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. We got a lot of the regulars. Johnny Might has joined us from the desert for this live stream, I believe. Yeah, I did see that comment. McLovin's in the chat. It's good to see many of the regulars. Good to see everybody still tuned into the Bitcoin space while most people are just bored of the price action. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see all you guys